welcome to yet another episode of The Life We Create. I am Cobain Rivers.
And I'm Taylor Joy Stevens. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you for spending another day with us. We're really excited about this episode, especially after the feedback from last episode. I think a lot of people enjoyed the structure. Got a lot of good comments and a lot of good just conversation sparked from that. So I think a lot of people are dealing with similar things in their creativity where they do feel like they need some sort of structure to be able to maximize what they're doing.
Yeah, took creativity out of the abstract, I think.
Yeah. Well, I love that you said that. You create the structure, it makes it a tangible thing. You know what you're doing. You know how you're going to go about doing it. I love that.
Yeah.
But anyway, this week we have a topic that I'm even more excited about. I've been reading a book called Big Magic by Elizebth Gilbert. I actually think Taylor might have mentioned it on like one of our first episodes.
Probably.
And I started reading it last week, or the week before last week I started reading it. And
I'm so glad that you dove into it on your own.
Yeah.
Of your own volition. Because I read this book about 3 years ago. 3.5. And it was when you were going through your whole thing. And
my heart thing.
Yes.
You made it sound so. I mean, it is a big deal, but it sounded so grim how you said it.
Well, when you were like, I was even at points in the hospital. I was listening to it because it was helping me get through.
Interesting.
And kind of, I don't know, just keep myself up while I was in the presence of you too. So it's a very powerful book. It's magical.
Well, and I love that you use it as a way of uplifting, because I think it is a very uplifting book, especially in regards to creativity. And so this piece that I wanted to talk about today was around creative entitlement. And we're going to do a lot of, I'm sure there'll be a lot of episodes connected to work that's done in Big Magic. But Elizebth Gilbert is an author who wrote a book that you may be familiar with called Eat, Pray, Love, has a movie starring Julia Roberts. And so that's her big thing that knocked her into fame, and then from then she's written many books around creativity and her process. But in this book she talks about creative entitlement. And it resonated so much with me, and I think it resonates with our audience and what we've kind of talked about here. And so I'll let Taylor kind of break down what creative entitlement is, what that means.
So creative entitlement is you giving yourself permission to create.
What? One more time.
Giving yourself permission to create.
Well, let's do it again for the people in the back.
Yeah, because this is kind of counterintuitive. Shouldn't be, but it is. Giving yourself permission to create.
Giving yourself permission to create. You giving yourself permission to create. And I love that it's phrased that way, because the reason why most people are not creating is not because of external obstacles. It is often them not giving themselves the space to create.
Them being their own worst critic.
Yeah, getting in your head, getting too wrapped up around what you're going to make, or how it's not going to be what you want, or how you can't do it.
You don't deserve to create.
Yeah, these are all things that I think we tell ourselves, and it's what stops us from creating. And I love the shift in mindset to say, well, no, I can create. I am able to create, and I allow myself to create.
And I will create.
Bars.
Yeah.
It's bars. Creative entitlement, I think, is something that when you hear the term entitlement, we have this negative reaction to it. And Elizebeth talks about this in the book. But you are entitled to creativity. And this quote that I'm about to tell you, for me, was like, when I heard it, I was like, she's spitting facts. And it is. I am able to create because I am a product and consequence of creation. I am a product and consequence of creation. All of us, every single one of us, were created. And I don't care what your belief is, to simplify it. Your mama, your dada did some things. And here you go.
Scientifically speaking, we all started off as nucleuses.
your mama and your daddy did some things, and you were created.
And some magic happened. You were formed, grew, birthed.
Through a whole process.
It's amazing. I mean, what's the stat? We'll put it up. But like, it's amazing that each of us are even here.
Oh, it's like the literal statistic is like a near impossibility. The fact that we even exist. It's mind blowing. And I'll put the number on the the equation on the video, but it's mind blowing.
Yeah. And with that, my belief too, and maybe I heard this somewhere, I'm not sure, but I just love it. Creativity is your birthright.
Mm-hmm. It is what you are designed to do. Mm-hmm. It's part of you. Everything, the whole world we live in. You go outside, look at the world that you get to enjoy. It's a creation. Mm-hmm. This whole society is a creation. Mm-hmm. We did that, and so it's one of these things that like we have to allow ourselves to our own mind. We got to tell it, yo, you can do it. Mm-hmm. And it starts there. That's the basis. The basis is telling yourself you can.
Yeah. And David White, who's a poet and Elizebeth references, he says the arrogance of belonging.
Yeah, that's what
part of creative entitlement. Yeah. So just really, staking your claim and owning your power, like in who you are. You're here, you have a voice to be heard, you have a vision, and it matters. As long as it's not harming anyone else.
Right,
I feel like I have to.
And so that arrogance, and Elizebeth talks about how that arrogance is not related to ego. Mm-hmm. It's just about you belonging in the space of creativity. Yeah. And so being able to tell yourself that and recognize that and feel like whatever I'm working on, I'm doing it because I can. Yeah. Because I can. Simple as that.
I believe she uses those strong words and these strong words that have historical negative connotations to them, and like flipping them because that's how important it is to reclaim this and have that creative entitlement because of how much it's been subdued. Yeah. It's like it's like being birthed again within you. Yeah. Anyway.
I think that in our societies, we learn to look for external validation. And in creativity, for some reason, as you go through life, you're constantly looking for someone else to put a stamp of approval on something you've made. Mm-hmm. Even, you think back to when you're a kid and you drew a picture for your parents and you took it, showed it to them. Like, from that moment, we're looking to see, what do they think of this? Mm-hmm. And that plays a big part in our life as we continue moving forward in creation. We're constantly looking for what other people seem to think about the things that we create and put into the world. Mm-hmm. And when you receive a lot of sort of, I guess, negative feedback throughout life, you start to build up this resistance to creativity. But the reality is you don't need anybody's validation. Mm-mm. You don't need any outside person to say, hey, I see what you did there and you should keep doing it. You should be the one to say that.
Especially because you don't even have to show everything you create to everyone or anyone. Like some things you just create for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe that's where you start. Maybe you start with the things that are like just for you, like the therapeutic things, without feeling the need to, get a subjective opinion.
Yeah. So in simple terms, the why we wanted to focus on creative entitlement is because it is human nature to create.
Yeah. And I think, and we both believe this because we've said it before, creativity plays a part in your happiness.
It does.
So I think that's also why it's important. Actually, when you were just talking, and I think it applies to, the why, is that, also being creative, I think, is also a form of resistance and breaking down societal barriers, especially in America, like where a lot of times, creativity is suppressed and it's not prioritized or valued all the time, especially coming up in school. Granted, it depends where you go to school, but I think like, majority public school, a lot of times it's the arts programs that unfortunately get cut first. And yeah, I just think it's that level of I'm going to do this because I'm entitled to do this, even though you've told me my whole upbringing that it's, insignificant, labor and industry over creative. Like, yeah, it's that conversation that like comes up for me.
Well, it's often, I think, in many spaces, it's presented as a privilege. Like you should be grateful that you get to create or that you get to go do these things that are creative. And it feels like something that is an afterthought, like you said, especially when it comes into systematic schooling. Creativity was it was one of the first things to go, or it's a curriculum that you have to do. Like it's not a part of the core courses, or it's, one of the things I think about often is how recess, which I think is such a creative time for children.
A necessary break too. Yeah.
Yeah. But it allows, I think it allows children to be creative with each other without any guidelines.
Yeah. Express creatively.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that for me, like I got into 6th grade and recess was gone.
Really? Oh, I still had it in 6th grade.
I didn't have recess from 6th through when I finished school. Like there was no sort of recess. And that was, I think,
That's sad.
It wasn't great. And I'm grateful that I had like a mother who really supported and pushed me into more creative things. So granted, I was a part of a drama club and I took acting classes. I did other creative things. But it was things that I had to seek out and do. It wasn't things that were just like, hey, you've got to take this thing because it's important to you. And I think that's kind of a disservice to so many of us, because those things should remain.
Yeah, because I feel like we could have a whole episode on education and the system of education. But yeah, I mean, to someone pursuing their creativity is just as important to someone pursuing math at a high level.
In some cases, it can help you do better at math.
Yeah.
If you start to learn how to think outside the box.
Maybe you'd actually get math better.
Yeah.
If you're creative. Yeah. I think we digress on that. But yeah, it's just a crucial, vital part of life. Actually, the rest of what David Whyte says is, because you brought up privilege, part of his thing is it's an absolutely vital privilege if you wish to interact more vividly with life.
A vital privilege.
Being creative. Yeah.
Focusing on allowing yourself to be creative, even if just for a second, allows life to be more vivid. That's deep.
That is deep.
It's deep. Let your cup runneth over with vivid enjoyment of life.
Yeah, and we were talking about like ways in which you can adopt this belief or implement it.
Yeah, how do you get
for yourself?
Comfortable with that creative entitlement?
Yeah,
how do you give that to yourself?
Something that came up for me as we were talking is focusing. And I'm excited because I think this could be its own series, but like just really honing in on your inner child and a way in which you can do that. Cause I know sometimes that's convoluted. A way in which you can do that, that Julia Cameron talks about in The Artist's Way is, recalling things that you liked as a child, things you liked to eat. What was your favorite color? What activities or hobbies did you enjoy doing? And like revisiting that and like, things that spark your interest, like just paying attention to that. I think is one way you can start to kind of implement these little creative activities for yourself.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Actually, while you were talking about that, it sparked something immediately for me that I've noticed, because I made the comment about recess before. Ever since we had Cash, our son, he's now at this age, he turns 1 in a few weeks, but he's at this age where he's playing more. There's a lot more activity. And so every day we basically play with him for a few hours, a little bit of time, and it has, for me, gotten me so much more in touch with just playing, just doing things that have literally no purpose other than just fun. There's no way that this is done wrong. There's no like we're just playing, and there's no
Yeah.
not even real rules to the way we're playing because he doesn't like have like rules yet. He just kind of does stuff, and then and it's brought so much joy out of me, especially because this is kind of how we start our mornings now, or like after he gets kind of all his stuff ready and goes through his routine. Like it's just kind of, let's play for a little bit of time. And so that's kind of the first thing that I do when I wake up is I'm playing with him. And so it sets the rest of my day up in such a great space because I had a good time.
Yeah.
So I think that's,
Play is creative.
yeah. So that for me is how I've been kind of getting in touch with that inner child, is just through playing with our actual child.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really cool. Really sweet. I noticed that too. Yeah, it really is a gift to just be able to play with there's no outcome or result or anything that's necessary. It's just very, in the moment, mindful.
I may start a movement to advocate adult recess, where in the middle of your day at work or whatever you're doing, you get, I think we're adults, we need a little bit longer. You get 2 hours of play.
2 hours. Wow. I thought you were going to say like 15 minutes.
No, see, that's every break with jobs is like, you get 15 minutes. What am I doing in 15 minutes of an 8-hour day?
I was just maybe easing people into it, that it doesn't have to be.
Well, I mean, but I don't think there's like an ease into it. If in the middle of your day,
2 hours,
okay,
that
so
keeps people there later.
Okay, well, yeah, I don't like that. Okay, so maybe in the middle of your day, if you're like guaranteed hour of play, and it's a paid hour, like it's not lunch, but because this is gonna help you do your job better. So you get an hour where you get to just do whatever you want in the space, and I think that would be, it's a recess. I don't know why they took it away. I got beef. I got beef. It was, you know how much fun recess would have been in high school. We used to play kickball in like elementary school, like having literal like.
They just called lunch. Recess got replaced by lunch, and that sucked for me.
Well, that's
in high
crazy
school.
because it got replaced by something that was already there. I already had lunch.
Yeah, I had to eat anyway.
you already gave me lunch. You had to do that, but. All right.
Moving on. Some other things we can do to adopt creative entitlement is to address the inner critic in your head, the negative self-talk that's telling you, you're not creative. Who do you think you are? And, standing up to that voice and learn how to talk to it in a way that, I am a creative being. Creativity is my birthright. We were talking about, affirmations to do this. To just get more in touch with like, what does a positive self-talk practice look like, especially when you're addressing the negative that's trying to keep you from being creative.
Yeah. And I actually like how Elizebth Gilbert puts it in the book, because it is a very informal way of just talking back to the voice and not, I think sometimes for people that are just starting out, words of affirmation can feel a little hard, just because you're literally just telling yourself
or like untrue
these thoughts. Yeah, and yeah, sometimes for some people it feels untrue to begin with because you don't feel that yet. But Elizebeth says to just respond to the voice with, "I am here. I am doing this. I belong here.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for sharing." Yeah, and she says, yeah, I love that she says, like, this voice, it has a place in your life. It's gonna be there. We all have it. You can't really silence this voice, but you don't have to listen to it. You don't have to let it be in control of anything.
Yeah.
And you can just have a conversation with it and say, well, I hear you, but I'm going to do this. I'm going to go skiing.
Whether you like it or not.
I'm going to try to get on that skateboard. I'm going to try and paint that picture.
I'm gonna do it for fun.
I'm gonna go to this paint and sip, and I'm not going to sit here and judge myself because I'm not a painter. I'm just going to have fun. And I think we're able to do that to that voice, and
Yeah.
you're able to do that in a way that doesn't feel like you're a fraud.
Yeah.
Because you don't
Because
have
there shouldn't be any of that pressure on it, especially if you're not even like, if no one's like, you know, holding a gun to your head saying you have to make something creative or else you know, like it's not like that.
And it's part of, I think some of the best moments of growth for people are when you're doing something that you're uncomfortable doing.
Yeah.
And so
Discoveries happen.
Yeah. And so when you're trying something that you have this resistance to, and obviously I mean this within the realm of like things that make sense. I'm not saying like don't go rob a bank because you're afraid of robbing banks, but now you're like, maybe this will push me in a different direction.
Yeah. We're never we're never talking about things that can harm other people.
But what I mean is like, there's so much resistance to trying things that there is. I think about. I'm going to give an example.
Oh, I got my thought back too.
An example is, so my mom a few years ago, my mom, for as long as when I was a kid, this is a woman that wouldn't even drive because it was just too much for her senses. And she just didn't feel comfortable with all the cars on the road. So this is the kind of like where that sort of, I don't know if it's fear, but that was something she didn't like doing. A few years ago, she went skydiving, and she loved it. This is a woman that wouldn't drive a car, but she's jumping out of a plane. And that's a facing of a fear in a way that like, it's kind of extreme, but it also set off this chain of events that now I see her. She goes zip lining places. She's doing she recently, this is another couple years ago, she went to like Alaska and did like I think it's like she got on like the boats where they do like the deep sea fishing stuff. Like it's just this crazy, like.
She'll get on a boat. Oh, that's surprising.
But it's just this crazy like change of lifestyle after just trying something. And so I think that's where I talk about, like when we talk about that fear and then that voice in your head that says, oh, you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be doing that. Sometimes it's like, okay, I hear you, but let's try it. Let's try to see what happens. And I think about that. What's the worst that can happen in a lot of these things? The worst that happens is that you actually give yourself the evidence that you don't like it. Or you do it and you realize, wow, this was amazing. And I want to do it again. And I want to get better at it.
Sounds like your mom uses the adrenaline junkie within her to get her outside of her comfort zone.
Yeah. Well, she uses,
Those are extreme.
I think she uses that resistance as a compass.
Yeah.
And I think you get to, and I love this about her. I think she's hit this point in her life where there's a lot of confidence in who she is. And so there is this just trying stuff because as I think, the age that she is at, there is only so much more time to be able to do some of this extreme stuff. Now, granted, I know you have like some 80-year-old, 90-year-old people, and my mom's in her 50s, but you have some 80 or 90-year-old people that are skydiving and doing crazy stuff. But not all of us make it to that level of life. So she's at this place now where it's just like, I want to stack up the experience points. That's to my RPG, my role playing game players out there. She's out here stacking up these experience points and applying them to different parts of her life and leveling up them characteristics. She's a whole character, and I love it.
I was going to make a note. That sometimes there is resistance to spending some time being creative. And that's totally normal. And I find that I still come up against that sometimes where like I'm really resistant to doing something creative, even though I know it will help me. Maybe sometimes people don't know it will help them. But like the minute I actually give into the creative impulse and like urge, even just for, however long, like I feel better.
Yeah.
So I was just going to say it's normal to be resistant, especially at first if you're trying to get into the practice of.
The big thing that I want to say is you don't need anyone's validation. It's not important. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks about what you're creating.
Yeah.
it's your permission that's needed. You have to be the one to say, you know what, I'm going to do it. So hopefully you take this and you say, you know what, these guys are right. I'm going to go create right now. I'm on my creative tip. Hopefully that's what happens. If it works for you, fantastic. Let us know. Hit us up and say, yo, thank you. We created this week, and show us. I want to see them creations.
Yeah. Take what you like. Leave the rest. Well,
like, share,
subscribe, follow, leave a review if you have some extra time.
The Life We Create, episode 11. Episode 12.
12.
12.
Yeah.
12 episodes. 12 weeks of this. Can't wait till we're on episode 673.
Well, yeah. We'll see you there.
Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.